Welcome to Myanmar Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Melody, and here are today's reports. Over 3,000 cases reported within September. Shwedagon Pagoda continues renovation work despite closure. YBS buses keep running with strict health regulations for the convenience of passengers amid COVID-19. Highway bus lines play a major role in ensuring continuous commodity flow during COVID-19. Before we get to the reports, let's take a look at the feature local news for today. A virtual workshop on revealing indicators for monitoring and evaluation framework of the Ministry of Social Welfare Relief and Resettlement was held on Thursday. Union Minister for Social Welfare Relief and Resettlement, Dr. Win A, said that discussions have been made for monitoring and evaluation since the beginning of 2019 and based on the workshops. The ministry-wide monitoring and evaluation roadmap draft has been compiled and a book would be published after approving in detail. It needs to review indicators in detail when monitoring and evaluation roadmap is emerged. The union minister called on those from the ministry and departments who are assigned to discuss what indicators should be put depending on the task. The union minister expressed thanks to those who cooperate in M&F framework and hopes for further cooperation in future work programs. The country representative of UNICEF made appreciations on having a chance to cooperate in drafting monitoring and evaluation roadmap and said it will support for M&E affairs. The government has provided cash assistance of 20,000 jets to each household in Dalat Township that has no regular income during the outbreak of a pandemic. The third cash-providing ceremony was held in Tirizeya Noyata Hall of Township General Administration Department on Wednesday, in line with the guidance of the Ministry of Health and Sports. At the ceremony, Township Administrator U Yin Tui explained the aim of the support of cash assistance. Then they handed over the cash assistance to the respective ward and village track administrators. The cash assistance will reach the households through the neighborhood and village track administrators. Myanmar nationals, including seamen, continue to return from abroad by relief flights. On Thursday evening, a relief flight operated by Myanmar Airways International brought back 56 Myanmar nationals, including seamen from Vietnam. On arrival at Yangon International Airport, Ministry of Labor, Immigration and Population, Ministry of Health and Sports, and Yangon Region Government provided the returnees with proper medical checks and arranged 21-day quarantine for COVID-19 prevention and control. And I believe it's time now for our first report. Among ASEAN countries, with a significant increase in the number of infected cases, Myanmar has currently ranked in the 5th place with over 3,800 infected cases. Since the 4th of September to Thursday, over 50 people have died from the COVID-19 and over 3,000 cases were reported within the same month. The number of the locally transmitted positive cases is increasing a lot, not only in metropolitan cities like Yangon, but also in other regions and states.
With a significant increase in the number of infected cases, Myanmar has currently ranked in the 5th place with over 3,800 cases among ASEAN countries. Myanmar reported its new death of COVID-19 in September. Since the 4th of September to the 17th of September, over 50 people died from the COVID-19 and over 3,000 cases were reported within the same month. The number of the locally transmitted positive cases is increasing a lot these days, not only in metropolitan cities like Yangon, but also in other regions and states. The risk of the community transmission remains still high due to the rainy season and its flu season combination with the COVID-19 symptom. Dr. Tanaiso, Director of the Health Knowledge Promotion Division from the Ministry of Health and Sports, told MI Radio, he said,
As the positive cases increase, the number of the contact cases rises too. So we have currently arranged to put more quarantine centers in each township. Currently, there are over 4,000 quarantine centers in the country, and we are going to expand some hospitals and quarantine centers as the number of the confirmed cases is increasing. While the number of the positive cases and death cases is increasing, the number of the recovered cases is also rising. The number of the cases continues surging within these days. We are going to expand temporary hospitals in the Yoma Housing and National Football Academy and Pangji COVID-19 Medical Center. The discharged people have to stay home quarantine for a week, and they still have to avoid the crowded places these days, as the infections can be infected from people to people, so public should stay at home and follow the social distancing rules.
Myanmar reported 374 cases in almost 5 months after the beginning of the outbreak. However, the number of the cases has risen rapidly per day since the mid-August, with the highest number of over 300 cases. Since the 4th of September to the 17th of September, a total of over 50 deaths were reported. Yangon becomes the country's COVID-19 center with more than 2,100 cases, followed by Rakhine State with about 800 cases. Cases were reported in 151 townships across the country, with only Gaya State reporting no COVID-19 cases. In Yangon, Tenganjon Township is the highest number with the infections. South Okalaba Township is one of the townships which became the most infected township since the COVID-19 resurgence. Umomie Region Lotto representative from South Okalaba Township spoke to MI Radio about the current prevention process. He said,
In this period, South Okalaba Township is one of the townships which have to follow the stay-at-home restrictions under the Ministry of Health and Sports. We strictly control to the markets and urge the people to follow the social distancing and wear the masks. Before the resurgence, there were only a few COVID-19 infected cases, but nowadays, the number of the infected cases is increasing a lot. So we expand some quarantine center in our township, and we immediately contact the Yangon Region Health Department as the people in the quarantine centers have shown some symptoms of the infections.
Due to the rapid surge of the COVID-19 cases since the August, Myanmar has overtaken the other ASEAN members behind Malaysia with more than 9,900 cases, Singapore with more than 57,000, Indonesia with more than 225,000, and the Philippines with more than 269,000 COVID-19 cases. Around the world, a total of more than 30 million people are infected with the infections, with more than 945,000 deaths, and more than 21 million people were recovered from this deadly disease, according to the data from the World Media Coronavirus Resource Center. With the latest update from the Ministry of Health and Sports on 18th September, a total of 4,299 people are infected with 61 deaths and 944 recoveries.
That's the report on over 3,000 cases reported within September. Because of the unstable situation of COVID-19, famous pagodas in Myanmar are still under closures in order to avoid crowds. According to the Board of Trustees Shwedagon Pagoda, a significant structure of Myanmar, where lots of local and foreign tourists visit usually, is still not opened. And during its closure, the renovation and maintenance works are being carried out.
Shwedagon Pagoda, a magnificent religious structure in Yangon from Myanmar, is carrying out renovation work while it is being shut down. Pagoda trustees are working on renovation and maintenance of Shwedagon Pagoda, the fame of Yangon, while it is being closed down because of the COVID-19 pandemic and no visitors are allowed. Temples and pagodas in Myanmar, including Yangon, were not allowed to have any visitors in order to avoid crowds because of the COVID-19. Temples and pagodas were shut down starting from the first week of April before the release of the stay-at-home order. But some of the pagodas are reopened at the end of July and earlier August, when the situation is getting back to almost normal. However, famous pagodas, including Shwedagon, are stay closed. The Shwedagon Pagoda is one of the tourist attractions in Myanmar, and it is the most sacred Buddhist temple in Myanmar and full of invaluable art of Myanmar. Upode, member of Shwedagon Pagoda Board of Trustees, said,
"ကိုဗစ်ကြောင့်ပိတ်ထားတဲ့ကာလမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ပုံမှန်ပြုပြင်ထိန်းသိမ်းရေးလုပ်ငန်းတွေအရင်တိုင်းပဲဆက်လုပ်
When the pagoda is closed during the COVID period, the regular maintenances of the pagoda are proceeding. For the electricity, we have the electricity team. For the labor strength of the whole pagoda, we also have the consulting teams. We have to submit to these teams and lead teams. In this period, we were undertaking the regular maintenance of the pagoda. We are now carrying out the things to support the control of the COVID, like having sessions for washing hands and the temperature testing sessions. We undertook these protections since the earliest days of COVID-19 in case of the visits to the pagodas were allowed. In the closing periods, we changed the floor of the temples and polishing the slabs. For example, there were broken slabs in the southern entrance of the pagoda and we changed them. And there are also maintenances for the sculptures and the statues. We have also finished painting the Great Wall. The advantage of preparation in this period is that we can do without caring for the visitors.
ဟိုအားသာချက်အနေနဲ့ကတော့ပြိတ္တတွေရှင်းရှင်းလင်းလင်းနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့တွေဒါလုပ်ရတာဖြစ်တာပေါ့နော်
Although this is the closing period, the health guidelines for the controls of the virus are being performed and the details of the process are submitted to the Ministry of Religious Affairs and Cultures. And it is preparing to be ready to open as soon as the permission from the National Level Central Committee on Prevention, Control and Treatment of COVID-19 is passed. The members of the Pagoda Board of Trustees are doing the daily chores of the pagoda during this period when there are no religious teams to do the chores. Uwinton, chairman of Mita Parami volunteer team for Shwedagon Pagoda, said,
We surely want to reopen the pagoda, but we have to understand these situations, which lead to stay closed the pagoda gates. As the pagoda is stay closed, the volunteer teams cannot perform religious deeds. They will be able to perform the religious deeds only after the pagoda gates are opened. We have fully understood the situations as it is the pandemic period. Now, some volunteers are going back to their hometowns, so we need to reform our volunteer team when we get the approval to reopen the pagoda. We have been connecting with each other through online group. Our volunteer groups made the donations in Daesomba Pagoda in Bago on 3rd of August. And we are planning to go to Shwedagon to be able to celebrate the Kathina rope offering ceremony in coming November. So we hope this pandemic will end at this time. We have established an online group named as Mita Parami. We always make the discussions for every donation in our group. We want all of our people to follow the rules so that this pandemic will be largely under control soon.
Normally, the religious ceremonies such as Bodha Busaniya Festival are always held at Shwedagon Pagoda, but now these religious activities like praying with volunteer groups and meditation matters cannot be done during the COVID-19 pandemic. So there are some broadcast channels telecasting such religious matters in order to do the above religious deeds every day amid COVID-19 pandemic.
That's the report on Shwedagon Pagoda continues renovation work despite closure. Moving on to the third report. The YBS buses are still running, although there are decreasing number of passengers amid the resurgence of COVID-19. Some bus lines reduced their buses because of losses in profit and not being enough to cover the expenses and wages. The currently running YBS buses also restrict that the passengers failing to wear a mask will not be allowed taking the buses.
The Yangon Region Transport Authority (YRTA), in cooperation with YBS bus line companies, are supervising the passengers, disallowing them to take the buses if they fail to wear masks in order to help prevent them from the risk of ongoing COVID-19 pandemic on the buses. After the horrific rise of virus infections in the country, there were over 1 million passengers taking the buses early September, but later on the 15th of September, there were only 500,000 passengers taking the buses. The number has decreased by about half. Ula Andrade, Secretary of Yangon Region Transport Authority, said.
The YBS lines are now trying to run the necessary processes for the passengers to be able to take the buses safely and comfortably, along with the health guidelines amid COVID-19. There are only 500,000 passengers now using the buses, and last Sunday, more than 400,000 passengers were taking the bus. We are running with 2,500 to 3,000 buses at the moment. As the passenger rate is high in the morning and evening, but low in the afternoon, we have surveyed the rates and considered the current situation by discussing with related bus companies and other private companies for enabling the buses to be able to run. On the other hand, we are supervising the passengers who don't wear masks when taking the bus, not to allow taking the bus. Moreover, our bus drivers are requested to wear the masks and face shields when taking the buses. In this way, we are scaling up the preventative measures against the virus.
Furthermore, the reason why the rate of passenger has dramatically decreased are due to a reduction of the staff numbers in the governmental offices and the work from home plan of other companies. Moreover, most of the businesses were now suspended amid the resurgence period. Although the number of passengers has relatively decreased, the YRTA and the public bus lines companies are working together for enabling the passengers not to face with any difficulty in the travel under the guidance of the Yangon regional government. Uda Dingwin, Managing Director of Power 11 Public Company Limited, said.
At present, the percentage of bus ran is quite dropping. Most of them have been stopped. The main reason is that they do not cover the running cost as they do not get maximal number of passengers. The cars have to stop because they do not get the operation expenses for CNG and fuels. But the essential staffs who have to go to the office could face some difficulties. For the buses, when they do not get the expenses for CNG, then they have to stop running. During the earlier period of COVID-19, they had to run at a loss. But since then, it could cover CNG cost and the driver wages, but they lost repair cost. But now, it cannot cover even the expenses for CNG. So, most of the cars have to stop.
Before the COVID-19 period, YBS buses used to transport average of 500 to 550 persons, but they do not even get 100 persons per now. So other bus lines have to reduce the number of the buses and are trying to provide full runs. On the other hand, they are also trying to prevent the spread of the virus. Guang Zhou is a YBS driver, and he said,
We do not get many passengers these days, and we drivers are in trouble at present. Everyone is afraid of COVID-19, and they do not go out, so we are not really fine for enabling the public to see convenience in their trouble. One bus has to rent 4 rams a day. Some bus lines reduce the number of buses, and each bus has to rent 3 round trips. Currently, the living of our families is not really well. We just want to solve the transportation problems. We are doing like so because our living still difficulty.
In Yangon, there were more than 1.8 million passengers. The number had to drop at the end of March, when the first case of COVID-19 was found, but in June, the number was back to increase with the number of buses accounting for more than 80%. However, the infection cases of COVID-19 grew back at the end of August, and the number of passengers dropped again by more than half, and the buses were the same matter. For the time being, there are only 2,500 running buses from 125 bus lines in Yangon.
That's the report on why BS buses keep running with strict health regulation for the convenience of passengers amid COVID-19. Let's move on to the last report for today. Along with the decreasing number of passengers during the resurgence of COVID-19, the highway bus lines based in Yangon region have shifted their attention to freight transport. Highway buses are transporting goods between Yangon and other parts of the country. They have been transporting only goods for nearly a month already.
During the COVID-19 pandemic period, Yangon-based highway bus lines are running every day, having temporarily stopped passenger transport, but their main attention has been shifted to deliver commodities, not to disrupt the continuous flow of the commodity. In some regions and states, health rules and regulations are strictly being controlled because a lot of locally transmitted cases were reported lately. However, there is no official statement prohibiting the commodity flow, so highway buses are transporting the goods to the designated places, according to the highway bus service agents. Ula Myojo, the driver from Shwedagon Express, mainly running Yangon-Myanmar, said the current situation about delivering commodities to Myanmar from Yangon region.
We barely have the passengers during this period. We have to transport freight and goods only without passengers. Health checks are conducted throughout the route. We have to be checked as to our health condition at the entrance to Mon State. And there is also the checkpoint between Mon State and the Nindai region. And another at the Shwedagon Bridge from Bake. Delivering the goods only is not quite beneficial for us. But we are doing this because if we close our gate, our customers will go to other ones, and there will be more losses for us.
Currently, highway buses are transporting only freights, which they receive from the customers. They are also transporting the goods from other regions and states to Yangon at a loss. The number of passengers is getting fewer and fewer during this COVID-19 pandemic. And starting from the COVID-19 resurgence period, the highway buses have to transport only goods for 20 days already. As the freights are also important for the living, there are 1 or 2 highway buses per gate transporting the freights daily. Ko Hain-Lin, in charge of Anti-Wind Express, said.
We heard a variety of news every day. At present, our highway buses are running to the Nindai region, where there is an official letter restricting travel already announced, and some places are banned and some are not. They accept if we have recommendation letter and health certificates. In the past, our express cards prioritized only passengers, but now we can't do like that. And we will have to focus on commodity flow only. Also today, 2 freight express buses will depart from here today. Before the period, there were 6 buses departed from here during this week. There is only 2 or 3 buses running a day. We mainly transport the commodity and very few passengers who have permission to travel by the authority.
ဒီတရားဝင်ခီးတယ်ကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့သူတို့ခွင့်ပြုချက်ပါတဲ့ခီးတယ်လောက်ကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒါအနည်းအချင်းပေါ့ဒါတင်ဝဖို့အစီအစဉ်ရှိပါတယ်ဟုတ်
According to the figures conducted by YRTA during August, there were 227 Yangon-based highway bus lines with 1,192 buses, and more than 10,000 passengers were transported. During September, when stay-at-home order is imposed, the number of passengers decreased by almost 0, and therefore the highway bus lines are placing their attention to the commodity transport. Altogether, 1,192 buses are running with over 10,000 passengers per day during last August, according to the data of YRTA. These buses are running mainly from Yangon to other states and regions based on 247 express lines. All the COVID-19 resurgence period and so-called stay-at-home period, passengers express are rarely to transport, and all the bus lines are changing to deliver commodity.
That's the report on highway bus lines play a major role in ensuring continuous commodity flow during COVID-19. Now to international news. In a recent interview with former U.S. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, Chinese ambassador to the United States, Kui Tiankai, shared views about current China-U.S. relations, economic and trade cooperation between the two countries, global governance, and China's economy. Kui emphasized that the differences recognized by both China and the United States require the two countries to build up more constructive and cooperative bilateral relations, instead of confrontational one. Kui said China and the U.S. have common interests in handling many global challenges, including the pandemic, climate change, and natural disasters, and either country cannot resolve the issues by itself. He urged the U.S. to avoid being misled by groundless national security concerns when handling China-U.S. relations. More interactions and mutual respect are needed to create growing opportunities for businesses from both countries. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte vowed on Monday to prioritize buying COVID-19 vaccine to be made available by Russia or China, while taking a swipe at pharmaceutical firms of Western nations asking for advance payment for their offers. Duterte has expressed optimism that the Southeast Asian country, which has recorded the region's highest number of coronavirus cases at nearly 266,000, would be quote-to-quote back to normal by December, pinning his hopes on the availability of vaccines. He said any vaccine purchases by the Philippines, however, will have to undergo a bidding process. It also planned to hold talks with Australian biotech giant CSL Limited. Duterte singled out China, which he said was unlike other countries seeking, quote, reservation fee, end quote, or advance payment. Moscow and Manila have agreed to work on clinical trials for Russia's vaccine. Cloud data warehouse startup Snowflake saw its share double on Wednesday, raising more than $3 billion in a blockbuster debut on the New York Stock Exchange. Snowflake shares priced at $120 at the opening bell finished the official trading day just shy of $254. The San Mateo, California-based company has grown quickly since it was founded 8 years ago in Silicon Valley and was valued at some $12.4 billion in a private funding round early this year despite not being profitable. Snowflake's spectacular market debut reflects their hearty appetite for new stocks, as low interest rates drive investors to equities. Snowflake provides online data storage, analytics, and management, essentially providing infrastructure as a service to businesses seeking to operate online. It relies on data centers hosted by Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. While the pandemic is taking a toll on the economy, it is also accelerating a trend toward businesses connecting with customers online and relying on the cloud or remote work. That's all with the news and reports on Myanmar Today. Hope everyone is staying safe.